Hello and welcome to the rise and fall of Takanohana, where me and my co-narrator Graham Densham will be bringing you the story of Takanohana Koji, Sumo's 65th Yokozuna. Having a dominant career spanning 15 years, with 8 of them spent at Sumo's highest rank, and born into a Sumo family dynasty referred to by many as the Hanada dynasty, which, by the way, will be the next video to follow this one, where we're going to take a deep dive into the full history of the Hanada family, warts and all. With 2 Makushita championships, a Kinboshi over Chiyonafuji early in his top division career, 9 special prizes, 22 top division Makuuchi championships, setting records in his career before Hakuho made it cool. Through injuries and controversy, join us as we take you through the highs and lows of his historic rise to the top of the sumo world and his controversial fall. Nephew of Wakonohana Kanji 1, aka the Devil of the Doyo, who was Yokozuna from 1958 to 1962, and after his retirement in 1962, he established Futagoyama Stable, and son of Takanohana Kenshi, also known as the Prince of Sumo, in his time as an Ozeki, where he held the rank for 50 basho from 1972 all the way to 1981, a record at the time, and who after his retirement established Fujishima Stable. So from birth, Takanohana was definitely thrust into a role with high expectations early on in his life, a pressure he shared with his older brother Masaru, who became his fellow, yet less successful Yokozuna, Wakonohana Masaru. Before we continue, guys, please like and subscribe to help out the channel, and so you're first to see the latest content, hit that bell. Born in Suginami, August 12, 1972 in Tokyo, but raised in Nakano, Tokyo, a young Koji and his brother had been practicing sumo since elementary school, and he even won the equivalent of a Yokozuna title in junior high. After graduating in 1988, he and his elder brother Masaru joined their father's stable. His brother had actually been planning to finish high school, but dropped out as to not lag behind his younger sibling. The 2 brothers had to move from the family quarters in the stable and join the communal room with all the other new recruits. They were also instructed not to refer to their parents as father and mother anymore, but as Oyakata or coach, and Okami-san, coach's wife. Takanohana and his brother made their professional debuts together in March 1988, along with future rival and first foreign-born Yokozuna, Akebono. Koji initially wrestled under the name Takanohanada, and it was understood that he would only be allowed to adopt his father's shikona of Takanohana, meaning noble flower, when he reached the rank of Ozeki. Takanohanada's 5-2 record in his professional debut, followed with 2 consecutive 6-1 records, seen him promoted to Sandanme in the November of 1988. He steamrolled through Sandanme in only 3 tournaments and was promoted to Makushita in May 1989. He won the Makushita Yusho in his first tournament with a perfect 7-0 record, and was the youngest ever to do it at just 16 years and 9 months old. The next basho seen him get his first ever Makikoshi, or losing record, of 3 wins and 4 losses, but came back strong again with another 7-0 record and was promoted to Juryo in the November of 1989. At the time of his Juryo promotion, he set another record at only 17 years and 3 months by becoming the youngest ever Sekitori. He followed with an 8 wins, 7 loss and 2 9-win, 6-loss records at the rank of Juryo, seeing him promoted to Makuuchi in the May of 1990.
The young Takanohana's first trip to Makuuchi was short-lived. He could only manage 4 wins in his debut basho and was demoted back to Juryo. It only took 2 basho for him to be promoted back to the top division though, and he returned for good in November 1990. In March 1991, in only his 4th ever top division tournament, Takanohana finished runner-up with a record of 12 wins and 3 losses, only 1 win fewer than the eventual Yusho winner Yokozuna Hokutomi. For this excellent performance, he earned the Fighting Spirit and Technique Awards, making him the youngest ever special prize winner. In January 1992, Takanohana added to his impressive collection of records by becoming the youngest ever top division champion, aged only 19 years and 5 months. In fact, he was so young that he had to celebrate with oolong tea instead of the traditional sake at the after-tournament party. And after his second championship in September 1992, Takanohana announced his engagement to Rie Miyazawa. This news is said to have sparked a similar amount of coverage in Japan to the British royal wedding held earlier that year. However, the engagement was broken off the following year. Reports at the time stated that Miyazawa was seen by Takanohana's parents and the Sumo Association as being unwilling to sacrifice her career to become an Okami-san. After recording solid double-digit scores in the last 2 tournaments in 1992, Takanohana's 11-4 result in the January 1993 basho was good enough to earn his promotion to Ozeki. And you guessed it, he was the youngest rikishi ever to have reached the rank. This achievement meant Takanohana could take on his father's shikona, and he wrestled from then on as Takanohana. During this period of the 90s, Takanohana and his older brother Wakanohana were credited with restoring sumo's waning popularity. Dubbed the Wakataka Boom, sumo returned to heights not seen since Futabayama's time in the 1930s. Tournaments sold out of tickets every day, and Takanohana and Wakanohana were seen as sex symbols in Japan. With foreign-born Akebono as sumo's only yokozuna, there was a great weight of expectation on Takanohana to make the next step. However, his lack of consistency and Akebono's dominance at the start of their great rivalry delayed his promotion to yokozuna. While Takanohana won his 3rd Yusho in May 1993, he lost a playoff to Akebono in the following tournament, and finished second to the yokozuna in half of the basho that year. He even had an uncharacteristic losing record in the November tournament. And in 1994, with Akebono suffering a number of injury problems, Takanohana won the January and May tournaments. After winning his first Zensho Yusho in September 1994, Takanohana now had 6 top division titles, though none had been won consecutively. No wrestler had ever accumulated so many titles before reaching sumo's highest rank. The Sumo Association nominated Takanohana for Yokozuna after the September tournament, but the Yokozuna Deliberation Council declined to endorse him. They insisted that 2 consecutive championships were required, having demanded the same of Akebono before his promotion. In November 1994, however, Takanohana took the decision into his own hands by winning his 2nd consecutive Zensho Yusho. With that, his promotion was confirmed. However, no record this time, but at 22 years and 3 months, he was still the 3rd youngest yokozuna ever at the time.
So, now a yokozuna, and having 7 tournament championships by the start of 1995, the same as yokozuna Akebono, who had reached sumo's highest rank 2 years before. But now, however, Takanohana had pulled ahead of the man who became his greatest rival. In May 1995, Takanohana married television announcer Kiko Kono. 8 years older than him, they have a son and 2 daughters together. His peak as a yokozuna was between 1995 and 1997, during which time he won 11 of the 17 tournaments he entered, sitting out of just 1 and finishing runner-up in the other 6. He produced 2 more perfect scores of 15-0 or Zensho Yusho in September 1995 and September 1996. From 1995 to 1997, he won more bouts than any other rikishi. In 3 of these tournaments where he did not take the Yusho, he lost to his own stablemates, bouts of which were rare to see during official basho. Sumo rules prevent wrestlers from the same heya meeting in regular tournament bouts except on playoff occasions. so he lost 2 of the titles to Ozeki Takanohana and once to his brother Wakanohana in their only ever official bout. It was a massively watched showdown between siblings. Takanohana usually got to avoid not only his brother and Takanohana, but also Sekiwake Akanashima and Takotoriki. This was because of the merger of his father's Fujishima stable with his uncle's Futagoyama stable in 1993, which added even more top division wrestlers to the list, giving him an advantage over Akebono, who had to face them all every basho. By September 1996, Takanohana had won 15 tournament championships and was still only 24 years old. However, after sitting out of the first tournament of his career in November due to a back injury, as I previously mentioned, was the one tournament he sat out of between 95 and 97. He suffered this back injury on a regional tour. When he had to sit out, he put on more weight, and it seemed like he began to be more susceptible to injury and illness as time went on through 1997. Takanohana developed a liver disorder in the first half of 1998, which caused him to go Kyujo from the January 98 tournament and missed the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics in Nagano, where his place was taken by fellow Yokozuna Akebono, who performed the Doyo Iri flanked by Top Sekitori at the time. He pulled out of the March tournament in 98 as well and was still below his best by May. Refusing the traditional treatment methods available from his hair, he turned to a physical therapist called Tashiro Tomita, who seemed to have a considerable influence over the Yokozuna. He became increasingly isolated from his father and brother, and with his father claiming that Takanohana had been brainwashed by Tomita, it caused much friction in the stable. Despite his brother's promotion to Yokozuna that year, creating the first ever sibling grand champions, the two could barely interact with each other. Takanohana recovered to win the July and September 1998 tournaments and was runner-up that November. In 1999, he was even more badly affected by injuries, including a dislocated shoulder, and managed to score only one double-digit winning record all that year. After making peace with his family in late 1999 going into 2000, Takanohana regained some consistency. Although he was sidelined for a bit by an elbow injury suffered in the July basho of that year, his brother had already retired in the March, and several other members of his stable were now past their best. So Akebono was dominant once more. His best results that year were 2 runner-up performances. Takanohana won his first tournament in over 2 years in January 2001, winning his 14 bouts and defeating fellow Yokozuna Musashi Maru in a playoff on the final day. He then came second in the March basho, but the final nail in the coffin for his injuries came in the May tournament, as he had suffered serious knee ligament damage in a loss to Musoyama on the 14th day of the basho, but insisted on fighting on and finishing the tournament is what could possibly have been his most dramatic Yusho clinching win. Up against fellow Yokozuna Musashi Maru on the final day of the 2001 Tokyo May tournament, having lost to his fellow Yokozuna that day to set up the playoff bout, Taka was bloodied and seriously limping, but he won, and that's when he made his much remembered demon face, but it came at great cost. As a result of his injury, he then missed an unprecedented at the time 7 consecutive tournaments, undergoing surgery in Paris in July 2001 and having a lengthy recuperation after that. As well as dealing with the stress of his parents' messy divorce and his mother's subsequent departure from the stable, and as her role as Okami-san. After a year out, he finally returned to the ring in September of 2002 under watching eyes after the Japan Sumo Association stated that he must now compete or retire. He finished behind Musashi Maru with a 12-3 record, and for the 16th time he had been a tournament runner-up, a great feat considering his time off of the dojo. He sat out the next tournament with more knee problems. A late decision to compete in January 2003 seen him try another comeback, but a shoulder injury caused him to miss 2 days, and after suffering successive losses to Dejima and Amanishiki, he announced his retirement. He said he had no regrets and was thankful to have achieved so much in sumo. His father spoke of his relief at the decision. After seeing his son battle through so many injuries, Takanohana's record of 22 tournament championships was the 4th best in sumo history at the time, behind only Taiho, Chiyonofuji and Kitanumi. The Prime Minister at the time was among those paying tribute. His retirement left no Japanese-born wrestlers at the Yokozuna rank and was widely regarded as the end of an era. Takanohana's retirement ceremony was held at the Ryogoku Gokugikan on June 1st, 2003. Unusually, Takanohana allowed only 50 guests on stage to take a snip of his hair instead of the normal 300 to 400. The ceremony and the party held afterwards at the Imperial Hotel were both broadcast live on Fuji TV.
After his retirement, Takanohana became a Toshiyori, or Elder of the Japan Sumo Association, and because of his achievements in sumo, he was given a bonus of 130 million yen. It's about $1.1 million. He was also made a one-generation Elder, meaning he didn't have to purchase a share in the association, and was able to keep his fighting name, becoming Takanohana Oyakata. In January 2004, only a year after his retirement, Takanohana took over his father's stable as a result of his father's ill health, which he subsequently named Takanohana Beya. The following month, the JSA appointed him as a Shimpan, a role that normally elders have to wait 4 years for. While active, Takanohana and his brother Wakanohana were well thought of by the press, who tended to ignore any splits between them, but after their retirement, their different attitudes towards sumo and life in general started to be noted. And Takanohana was seen as being somewhat aloof and reserved, where Wakanohana was seen as having a warmer personality. And after their father's death from cancer in May 2005, the rift between the brothers was widely reported in Japanese media. Takanohana felt he should be chief mourner at the funeral, as he had remained within the Sumo Association, while his brother had left to become a TV celebrity. But the role went to Wakanohana as the eldest brother, in line with tradition. With their father reported to have left no will, talk has been that the feud actually revolved more around the control of his estate. In 2008, Takanohana added 4 new recruits to his stable, the first for several years, bringing the total number of wrestlers in his charge up to 10. This included 2 sets of twins, Takagepo and Takatoshi, and Takagenji and Takanofuji. The first set of twins retired in 2014, but the second set is a whole different story, and we'll have a rise and fall video on them soon. Takanohana then took on his first foreign recruit, a Mongolian with amateur sumo experience named Takanohana. And yep, there'll be another rise and fall video on him too. In July 2012, Takanohana became Takanohana's first Sekitori Rikishi when he made the Juryo division. He then won the Juryo Championship in 2013 and made his top division debut the following tournament. Not without success as an Oyakata, Takanohana also coached future Ozeki Takakeisho, who reached the top division in January 2017. In February 2008, the association appointed Takanohana Associate Manager of Judging, replacing former Yokozuna Chiyonofuji after he had been elected to serve on the board of directors. For an organisation that tends to value seniority over achievement, it is unusual for them to appoint a 35-year-old to such an influential position. Both former Yokozuna Kitanumi and Chiyonofuji served a stint in the position before being appointed to the board of directors. Having reached a peak weight of around 160 kilograms, 350 pounds as an active wrestler, Takanohana lost a great deal of weight since he had retired, weighing around 90 kilos, 200 pounds. And in 2009 he published a book detailing his weight loss methods. Also in 2009 he was moved from the judging department to the Jungyo or regional tour department, much less high profile position. Takanohana mentioned in October 2009 that he was interested in running for a spot on the board of directors in the next elections, and he confirmed in January 2010 that he would stand, pitting himself against the two officially sanctioned candidates of the Nisshin Ozeki Ichimon. As a result, Takanohana and 6 of his supporters left the Nisshin Ozeki Ichimon. The first contested election since 2002 took place by secret ballot on the 1st of February 2010, and Takanohana was elected to the board, replacing Oshima. Seen as a reformer, he favoured revamping the current ticket sales system, improving support for ex-rikishi, as well as encouraging sumo in primary schools, raising pay of Gyoji, Yobidashi and Tokiyama, and making the Sumo Association's accounts and assets public. His victory was even praised by the Japanese Prime Minister. Following the election of a new chairman in August 2010, Takanohana returned to the judging department, this time as Director of Judging, and at 38 he was the second youngest Director of Judging in the history of the Sumo Association. But Takanohana's time wasn't without controversy. In July 2010, following a scandal around illegal gambling, Takanohana was forced to deny connections with the Yakuza, reports stating that he was seen with a mobster during a visit to Ehime Prefecture to recruit new apprentices. And the following month he and his wife were awarded 8.47 million yen in damages by the Tokyo High Court over 13 articles published in 2004 and 2005 concerning match-fixing allegations and controversy over his father's inheritance. He left the judging department once again in 2012 and became the director of the Osaka tournament. And in 2014 the JSA made the decision to recognise the Takanohana Group as an official Ichimon. He ran for the chairmanship of the Sumo Association in 2016, but was defeated by current chairman Hakaku Oyakata, ex-Yokozuna Hokutomi. Following this, he was replaced as the General Enterprises Director, seen as the third highest position in the association's hierarchy, and became the Jungyo Director.
Many stumbles happened during and after his active career, but Takanohana's real fall happened in November of 2017 when he delayed notifying the Sumo Association that Takanoiwa would miss the tournament that month because of injuries sustained in an assault by then Yokozuna Haramafuji at a restaurant bar in Tottori Prefecture in late October. Takanohana went to the police over the incident, something that's not the usual standard practice in the closed-off world of sumo. He did not submit a medical certificate for Takanoiwa until near the start of the tournament, and then refused to speak to the press or cooperate with the Sumo Association's investigation into the incident. It was announced after a meeting of sumo elders on December 1st, 2017, that Takanohana would only talk to the association's crisis management team once the police investigation was over. On December 28th, an emergency meeting of the Board of Directors recommended unanimously to dismiss Takanohana as a director for failing to promptly report Takanoiwa's injuries to the association and for failing to cooperate with the investigation. Their recommendation was certified by a meeting of Sumo Association councillors and external members on January 4th, with Takanohana demoted 2 rungs in the hierarchy. This was the first time that a director had been dismissed before the end of his scheduled term. He failed to gain re-election on the board in February 2018, receiving only 2 votes. The Takanohana group had selected Onamatsu Oyakata instead. In March 2018, Takanohana was demoted again to the lowest rank of Toshiori, due mainly to the behaviour of his wrestler Takanofuji, who was suspended for 1 tournament for punching his attendant in the dressing room after a match, just another mark on the long line of incidents his rikishi were involved in. He returned to being a shimpan or judge after this. On September 25th, 2018, Takanohana announced his resignation from the Japan Sumo Association after refusing to take responsibility for the allegations in a letter of complaint that he filed with the Cabinet Office on March 9th over the association's handling of the Takanoiwa affair. Although he withdrew the letter later that month following Takanofuji's misbehaviour, in August the association allegedly demanded that he say what he wrote was false, but he refused. No doubt sensing his downfall, he announced that Takanohana's stable will be dissolved. He called his decision agonising and gut-wrenching, but said he could not bend the truth and say that what was in his complaint was untrue. The GSA, in response, denied pressuring Takanohana to do this or to align his stable with an Ichimon. They accepted Takanohana's retirement and the closure of Takanohana's stable. He received 10 million yen for retirement and bonuses and has also been allowed to use the name Takanohana outside of the sumo world. His life took one final blow as it was reported in the November of 2018 that Takanohana and Kono, his longtime wife and mother to his children, had divorced. In a press conference in May 19th in 2019, Takanohana announced he would be establishing the Takanohana Doyo organization to promote sumo worldwide, but he has spent all of his time since departing the Sumo Association spreading sumo around the world by coaching and mentoring and giving talks to many sumo enthusiasts in many different countries. So even after all the highs and lows of his dramatic career and personal life, Takanohana Koji, sumo's 65th Yokozuna, cannot be denied as one of the greatest, not only Yokozuna, but Rikishi in sumo history, born into sumo royalty and thrust into a position of enormous expectations that would crush a normal man's mind. He was instrumental in setting the world of sumo ablaze in the 90s. From his epic rise to Yokozuna, breaking records set for decades, 22 top division titles, developing one of the greatest and well-known rivalries in sumo history with Yokozuna Akebono. 50 times they met in battle and walked away with 25 each, a perfect ending to their wars on the clay. He battled through injuries so he could live up to the rank he was born to gain. To this day, he works tirelessly to bring sumo to all corners of this blue marble we call Earth. He was born sumo. He lives sumo. He is sumo. Mind, body, spirit.